May your enemy's dicks be bitten off.
Depot Divide!
Depot Devoid.
Welcome to the Depot Devoid.
Whoa, it's so devoid.
It's very, very spooky where I am.
It looks pretty spooky. Not where I am. I
Actually,
mean, under other circumstances, this could totally be a murder shed, but it doesn't really look that spooky in here.
yeah, and I don't think that this whole flashlight to the chin thing's working out with the beard. It kind of like scatters the light all stupid. I'm going to quit that.
All right, you're back in the dark. That scene right there, you look pretty okay.
See, my flashlight does fun things.
You look like a person there.
So I'll set that there for the moment. We'll see how that goes.
All right,
I don't know how much power it's got.
we'll see. Maybe you'll just go black at some point.
It's possible.
That's how we know we have to stop talking.
Here's me
The
reporting
end!
from my bunker without enough power or light, like some horrible troglodyte.
Wait, do you have a murder shed too?
No, it's a bunker, Matt.
Murder sheds for everybody. Can we get like a Quonset hut?
I'd be down with that.
Those are fun. I remember
Yeah.
we found one time because like in high school, like you go off exploring with your dumb friends, and in Coos Bay, North Bend, actually, like if you walk across the McCullough Bridge, and then you walk down, you turn left, like as if you were going to Horsefall, and you go toward where the train bridge is, and you walk out there, sort of down by the water, and you sort of go around the promontory, and you find there's like 2 or 3 like really old Quonset huts, and you don't this was so this would have been like 1990. Had no idea what they were for, but like when you're a teenager with your friends in the middle of the night and you've decided to walk off into the middle of nowhere and find weird shit, you make up a lot of stories in your head, and it was very exciting and super creepy. I don't remember what all we found in the Kwanzaa hut, but I do remember there's some biblical passage about suffer the little children unto me. I don't remember. But someone had spray painted just the words "suffer little children" on the back wall of this Quonset hut that like is in the middle of fucking nowhere. And you're like, huh, yeah, some really awful things could have happened here.
Like most middle-aged white women, I've been listening to a lot of murder podcasts lately, and
Sure.
that hits some vibes.
Yeah, like that was definitely like you like under other circumstances that could have been like a really fucking scary place.
It's a good time.
I wonder whatever did happen there. I wonder if those Quonset huts are still there. We didn't go look when I went back for my high school reunion. For some reason we didn't go tromping into the middle of nowhere to look for Quonset huts. Although we did drive out in that direction, went out to Horsefall, and we didn't stay at Horsefall because it looked awful. I don't know if when the last time you went to that beach was, but damn,
It's
it was
been
scary.
probably 6 years. And it definitely got a lot worse for the wear. And it's also become one of those places where you have to have a pass to park. And
Yes,
they've got like a
it was-
guard tower up there where sometimes people are constantly watching you. And so you can't even like plan on I can park and get in for a bit,
Right,
because they
right.
are probably going to come down and immediately clock the fact that you don't have a pass in your window and give you a ticket.
It looked terrible. I mean, basically, when growing up in Coos Bay, there were essentially 3 main beaches.
Yeah.
There's Horsefall, there's Bassendorf, and there's Sunset.
Yep.
And Horsefall was fine. There was, but
It was the least good of the three.
Right. It was. I mean, Sunset is the touristy one. It's the one that, like, if you were gonna make a picture postcard, it's probably gonna be from Sunset.
Yeah.
Um, Bassendorf, obviously the best beach. Um,
Yes.
if you if you were with your friend, I remember explaining this to Bill when we were there for the high school reunion. If you were going to the beach, if you said we're going to the beach, you were going to Bassendorf Beach. If you were going to a different beach, you would specify
Yeah.
because you'd need to pass that information on. If you're just going to the beach, you're going to fucking Bassendorf. But Horsefall, stopping there on our way, because you kind of pass it on the way into town. So we stopped there because it was getting kind of the sun was going down and we're coming into town, and we're like, we want to at least sort of maybe see a beach before it's too late and we have to check into the motel. It didn't happen. Drove out to Horsefall and it was gross. And it was obvious right away. Oh, suddenly I didn't realize we had to have passes if we wanted to go to this beach. And also, it was clear from what I could see in the parking lot, we did not want passes to Horsefall Beach. We did not want to be there. There were nothing good would come of joining the people that were at Horsefall.
No,
Not
basically
a
the
good place.
main thing about Horsefall that is good is if you are a kid and you've got a sandbox and you want the good quality sand, not like that play sand that's too thick and gritty. If you want the kind of
Sure.
sand that you can get wet and then sculpt things with to play with your cars that you're going to ruin because you're going to get
Okay,
sand all up in your cars,
yeah.
that's where you go to get the sand. You talk to your grandpa. He's going to drive you out there in his orange Nissan, and he's going to shovel a bunch of sand while you hold a shovel and maybe put 2 scoops in it and hope that you're doing good enough. And then he's going to bring it back and put the sand into your sandbox, and you're going to have real good sand.
That may have been true many years ago, but now I think if a murder cabin could be expressed as a beach, it would be Horsefall.
Well, also, if you go to Horsefall to get your sand now, it will be soft, good sand, but it's also going to come with bullets and a lot of shells. It's where people go to shoot. You're
It
also going to probably find some needles.
it looks very much it's all loud four-wheelers, beer, Confederate flags, uh and it's basically it's the sort of thing that's fun to watch on TV and not in real life.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's about accurate.
Yes, I do not want to be there. Meanwhile, Bassendorf was still awesome. I don't know why I'm talking about this, but it was a good beach.
All right, it makes perfect sense to me.
So as you can tell, Depot Devoid, we're here on at the beginning of 2025. It's a brand new year. So Ted, uh, anything happened in 2024? Every all
Uh,
smooth sailing for you?
so 2024 is over, and I'm waiting to see what is the horrible ripples of
I don't
2024.
I don't know if you remember this, Ted, but we recorded our Hudson Hawk episode on the first day of 2024, and we talked about how, because at that time 2024 for Depot Devoid was the first year that we actually published any episodes.
True.
We have had been recording since late 2022.
I believe September.
Yeah, September or October. And I just never did anything with it. But we were still not releasing any episodes and not really planning how we were going to do it. But we did talk about how uh, in the future, historians would be talking about how 2024 was the year that horrible thing happened. And so now that 2024 is over, um, should we talk about the horrible thing, or should we just try to move on from it?
Well, Matt, unfortunately, when we're talking about the horrible thing, there are a few things that we can grasp at, but there's one that's glaringly obvious for me anyway, and we can't just get past it because we're gonna have potentially, hopefully not, potentially 4 years of it.
Well, now we did specify um, that the horrible thing would have nothing to do with the election. So I'm not sure what horrible thing you're referring to that has a 4 year duration. I assume um, you're going to college.
No, no, I'm not going to go back to college. I don't
Uh,
want that again.
yeah. Uh, and yeah, I don't want the other thing again either. But we got it happening. I'm trying my best to just kind of uh live my life ignoring it. Obviously, that won't be possible forever, and I am in a very privileged position to be able to ignore it on any level. Uh, let's acknowledge that right away. Things are probably going to get really bad for a lot of people, and
Yeah.
I am lucky that I and my partner are less likely to be massively impacted right away. I suspect you're probably similarly, at least probably not going to be totally destroyed right away, like some people are fixing to be. It's going to be a fucked up year.
It
Um,
will.
and I am just going to try to, I don't know, not completely have a meltdown and collapse and die. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And you know what, Matt? I mean, we can retroactively cut out the fact that the horrible thing actually did have to do with the election.
It's
Because
yeah,
as
I
much
mean,
as we hoped it wouldn't, it kind of did. I mean, it's the
yeah,
election that we were talking about the whole
yeah,
time.
of course it was.
We were just hoping that it would
But
be something
it's
different.
yeah, we were all hoping it would be something different. Instead, it's more of the horrible same.
Yep.
Um, we can hope that there will be. I mean, here's the thing about that horrible thing. We are all functionally useless. There's nothing we're gonna do that's gonna make a damn bit of difference. Uh,
No.
so on a certain level, you have to admit that, uh, and you can't let it just eat you alive. If you were in a position to not be eaten alive, try not to be. And if you are in a position to help other people be less eaten alive, fucking do that. That's that's basically. I mean, what else can I do? Is
Oh, oh, Matt,
survive.
you're forgetting something actually very critical here. If you're in a position to eat people alive, you might want to consider doing the things that we do in the movie Fresh from
Yes.
2022.
Ostensibly, we here at Depot Devoid, in our first recording of 2025, are here to talk about the movie Fresh from 2022, starring Sebastian Stan. We
And
might
how
we might even talk
cannibalism.
about that. It
Cannibalism's cool.
it you know what? If we can use that movie as a jumping off point to advocate literal eating of the rich, I am all for that. Uh, Here's the thing about Fresh. I enjoyed it. I don't know that I have a ton to say about it. I liked it. It was a fun movie. I started watching this having literally no idea what it was going to be about. Your friend, who is the recommender on this little adventure?
Her name's Erica.
Okay, so Erica recommended the movie Fresh, and Ted said, "Can we do the movie Fresh?" And I said, "All right." And I did not read anything about it. All I confirmed it was a movie from 2022 starring Sebastian Stan, so I would watch the right movie, and that was as far as it went. Um, I watched it with my partner Bill, who is generally, I mean, he's getting much more open to a broader variety of stories. But I warned him up front that I had no idea what this was about. I saw like the little, when you start the movie, it has a genre listed under it, it says horror thriller. I didn't mention that. I sort of hoped that I would be like, hey, you ever watch this movie? I don't know what's about, because I don't know what it's about.
And it's not that bad.
No, and it wasn't. We it actually there's a big opening sequence. Like the titles doesn't come up until like 34 minutes into the movie,
which is absolutely insane.
It was fun. At that point, you still don't know where it's going. It hasn't shown you that. I had a pretty strong inkling of where we were going, and I wanted to give Bill the option of saying no, because I didn't want to drag him along for this journey if he wasn't up for it in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I bet you didn't know it was going to Cottage Grove.
That I did not. I had not really cottoned on to where we were set. Although I will say, as soon as they started driving, Bill said, "Is that Portland?" Like literally, as soon as he saw the trees in the medium shot of the car, right. He was like, "Oh, that yeah." He pegged it instantly. Yeah, I did not realize how northwesty this was going to be.
Yes.
It was a fun ride. I like I said, I wanted Bill to have the option of saying no, but he watched all 3 seasons of Hannibal, so I know he is capable of going there.
I've seen none of that.
It is fucking good. It is really, really good and weird and dark and
all right,
artistic. It is like fucking sexy murder sculpture good. It's really good. It's what I wish Hellraiser had been, honestly. It's really good. And Bill went there with me. I was impressed that he took the ride. I told him up front what he was in for. So going into this, I figured this was not going to be as extreme as Hannibal got.
No.
And indeed it wasn't.
This movie maintains an upbeat, entertaining, happy tone throughout, which is amazing.
It really does. And it starts and finishes as an overt kind of cheeky critique of online dating.
Yeah,
that's where we start and where we finish as our sort of frame for this very dark detour that our main character's life takes. Hopefully, all of us can view the upcoming journey as merely a dark detour from which we can safely return in the end with our enemies shot full of holes and their dicks bitten off.
Yes, as they must.
May your enemies' dicks be bitten off should be our greeting and our parting gift throughout 2025.
Or should it be, may you bite off your enemy's dicks? I'm not going to advocate
you know that
that
is well, I feel like that is implicit if the opportunity comes up. But may your enemy's dicks be bitten off absolves you of having to just fucking seek out every single one of them and arrange a situation in which their dick is in front of your mouth.
That seems like a lot of work.
I mean, depending on how many enemies you have, I suppose.
I mean, even if it's like 3 or 4, I mean, come on, the elaborate game that you have to play to get to that point.
If there's like a sort of web of interconnected enemies, and you can sort of narrow down a linchpin and just bite that one dick off, and all of the other dicks will fall like dominoes.
That would be very crafty and creative to achieve that goal. I mean, I'm all down with the Rube Goldberg machine.
I think that the Rube Goldberg dick biting machine.
I might not even have to have my mouth involved in it at all if I design it right.
I think that should be our project for the coming year.
Yes,
Viva la revolution!
I'm down.
With the Rube Goldberg dick-biting machine that we will unleash upon the American political infrastructure.
We'll just have to build it better than the game Mousetrap, because that never worked.
That was not a good game. And one time, my best friend Steve and I got really high on Ibogaine and played
Fuck is that?
Mousetrap. I don't know, Ted. It was college. We there was a Mousetrap game that I had found at a thrift store that was actually complete, and we played Mousetrap. And as everyone who plays Mousetrap discovers, it sucks.
Yeah, it's a terrible game.
And the only thing that you want to do is build the mousetrap and set it off. That's the only interesting thing about it.
Yeah.
And the gameplay itself is not fun or challenging. And Steve and I got really high and solved it. Like we figured out how to reset the rules to make Mousetrap fun. And when we were no longer high, we could not remember how we did that.
That's because it's not possible.
No, it was. I know it was. And here's why. Because there's one thing I do remember, and it sounds like it's probably a solution if you got high in the right way. I just can't get my mind there again. But Ted, it's negative cheese. The solution to making Mousetrap fun is introducing the mathematical concept of negative cheese. Listeners, take that idea, take all the drugs you can find, take your Mousetrap games out of the closet, and figure out how to make Mousetrap fun using negative cheese, because I know it can be done.
Oh dear.
I'm sure it could happen again.
And just for the record, Depot DeVoy does not necessarily agree with all of Matt's statements about take all of the drugs you can find.
Not necessarily. But remember that, and in this, as in all circumstances, the ends justify the means.
Got it. Duly noted. I might actually seek out a copy of Mousetrap for the first time in my adult life, because that game made me so mad as a kid.
It really sucks, and it's so like alluring. Like that's the thing. It's like a Venus flytrap. It's so seductive, and then
Yep. Frustrating as all hell. All right, so back to our Rube Goldberg machine. Well, minus our Rube Goldberg machine.
The dick biting machine.
Yeah, remove the dick biting machine and get back to the movie fresh, which is fabulous. Yes, online dating. This is where we're going. We can skip by a lot of the stuff because it is meat. That's what we're talking about. We can skip past the meat and get to the part where we are bringing the girl on a little trip outside of town, going somewhere. Where are we going? Oh, we're going to Cottage Grove. And here's one of two problems that I have with this movie, but I still absolutely love the line. When he tells her that they're going to Cottage Grove. And she says, "Oh, Cottage Grove? I've always wanted to go there."
That was a little weird.
Absolutely nobody in their entire life ever has wanted to go to Cottage Grove, Oregon, or that other town in the United States called Cottage Grove. Nobody ever has wanted to go to Cottage Grove.
It's been a really long time since I've been into Cottage Grove proper, but is it different now? Is there some kind of destination reason to go there?
Matt,
why have I been there even? Like, why did we used to go there?
It was because we were coming through there on our way to and from doing things that involved going to Eugene. And it was not a regularity that we went to Eugene as children anyway.
But there was some reason that we stopped in Cottage Grove.
Was it
Like
to use a
when
toilet?
maybe I just remember that we used to stop there, and I can't
It
remember
wasn't
what the
even Rice Hill.
circumstances.
You
It
know,
was,
Rice Hill at least has the ice cream place.
ooh, I like ice cream.
Oh, you don't remember Rice Hill?
I probably do.
Well, Rice Hill will come up another time. Ice cream diner, no bathroom, lots of flies, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Okay. Nice.
But yeah, Cottage Grove, that's where I had my food truck.
I remember that,
It's
but
defunct now, so there's no
I never
reason to
went
go to
there.
my food truck. Um, the brewery that it was parked at is also now gone, so no
Wow.
reason to go there.
Is it because it was only sustained by your food truck?
No, but it was a pretty big draw. However, towards the end there, actually 60% of my sales roughly were DoorDash. So, you know, people
Oh,
weren't coming out to the brewery.
right,
They
right.
were door dashing my food and not going there, which is
DoorDash.
unfortunate for the brewery and a little bit for me. But my DoorDash sales, I signed on when DoorDash first came to the area. So rather than the 30% that they take from everybody, they gave me a 15% was what they would take for life as long as I
Ooh,
continued. So I didn't have to do a big markup to maintain my margins, so that helped.
that's not too bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, still,
but yeah, no,
the
nobody
whole
ever goes to
concept
Cottage
of
Grove.
the whole concept creeps me out. Yeah, that was strange. It yeah. There's no excuse for that line.
No, it's
Like
I
if you're gonna say that, you should back it up. Like
yeah.
what? Like because maybe that would be an interesting like character detail. Like if there's a specific like weird fucking reason that she always wanted to go to like Cottage Grove. I always wanted to go there. I heard that was the birthplace of LA law actress Susan Rattan.
They've got this Walmart that sucks. I really wanted to see it. Oh, I wanted to go to Cottage Grove forever so that I can go to that Little Caesars.
Maybe she's mistaking it for something else.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's definitely one of those things that warrants more
I mean,
reason.
it sounds cute.
Sure.
Maybe she's not from Portland, right? She moved there from somewhere.
I don't remember.
I feel like she did. I'm gonna say she did. You know what? The movie asserts quite clearly and unequivocally that she moved to Portland from somewhere else.
Now, I
And
can't argue this point because I watched the movie once and I didn't take any notes, and I was gonna watch it again last
me
night and take
too.
notes. But Hulu, we were having problems getting it to load, and so we didn't get to watch it a second time. And instead, I watched Archer.
Archer is also good. I also watched Archer yesterday. Um, okay, well, my point is, as a transplant from somewhere else, she doesn't know that Cottage Grove sucks, but she knows the name sounds adorable. So she thinks it's some really cute little place that you could visit and buy tiny little adorable things at little shops. That's she's picturing that fake like alpine village in Wallowa County, that kind of place. That's what she thinks Cottage Grove is going to be.
Or maybe she was confused and thought it was Cottage Grove, Minnesota.
I wait, are
But that's a
you
longer road trip.
is there something about Cottage Grove, Minnesota that would make it an attractive destination and she's confusing it with the local one? Or are you suggesting that she actually believes that he meant Cottage Grove, Minnesota, and she was totally on board for that road trip?
No, they were going to the one in Oregon, and why the fuck would I know anything about whether or not there's anything useful in Cottage Grove, Minnesota? Literally, the only reason I know that there is a Cottage Grove, Minnesota is one of the bartenders that worked at the brewery that I had my food truck parked at in Cottage Grove, Oregon, came from Cottage Grove, Minnesota, and literally lived in only those two towns.
Huh. Yeah, the I did date a guy when I lived in Portland who subsequently moved to Portland, Maine, and still lives there.
Hmm, good times.
That's actually uh the guy who introduced me to the apple.
Nice. All right,
Uh,
so we get to Cottage Grove, Oregon, and we go into a house and we see our main character get drugged, and I I absolutely loved the moment when she's realizing that something's wrong. He's like, "Oh, that's because I drugged you." It's terrifying.
he's very friendly.
He is. It friendly almost the whole way through the movie. It's wonderfully
Yeah,
executed, wonderfully directed. It's beautiful, and literally, like I said, there are only 2 points in this movie that I can fault them with anything. The rest of the time, it's done so well. Uh but yeah, and she gets drugged, she passes out, and she wakes up chained to a little mattress on a floor, and he's explaining what's going to go on. He's going to be selling parts of her body while she's alive for people paying top dollar to eat her meat. And it's
yes.
best when it's fresh.
And it's fresher if it's still alive.
Yep.
Yeah, so he makes it pretty clear that things are gonna be pretty gross from here on in. Uh he's still weirdly friendly and nice.
Super into
Um
her.
yeah, it's the whole movie has a very interesting dynamic between the main characters. And yeah, he has a few bursts of pretty potent rage. But they for the most part he is, I guess, to the extent that you can describe a person's behavior toward a captive that they plan to eat and sell as respectful. That's, that he's kind of that. He's not he could be a lot worse. This is not a horror movie in the traditional sense. The situation, were it real, would obviously be horrifying. But that's not how this is played, and it really continues to be about a a relationship
Yeah.
that that they are engaged in, and it's because she's being kept alive. There is always at least the glimmer of hope that she could get out of this, and so she preserves that. And it's a very interesting little ride that we take with these two people, and they're not the only ones there. There are two other girls at the start that we hear. uh, there is Penny, who seems to be immediately on the other side of the wall, who has been harvested a bit already. And a little bit further down the line, we hear Melissa, who Penny describes as having gone crazy. So
As
this is
one
just a
probably does.
Yeah, this is just a cycle. I'm sure Melissa was neither the first to go crazy, and Penny is probably right behind her until things take a bit of a turn later on.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is quite a little business that he has going on. We aren't really shown a huge picture of this organization, but clearly what he is supplying human meat to a customer base, a group of people who are fans of the long pig, and so he's a critical part of this organization that we don't really see except for weird, grotesque flashes of people eating,
Yep.
which is quite icky.
It really is. But I mean, it's it's still really well done and really well put together. And this movie, it's got a lot going on, but there's really not a whole ton to talk about without, actually seeing the movie and seeing it in action, because it is really just cute and fun. And I wouldn't say simple, because there are a lot of details.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it's fun, it's upbeat, and it's dark. But
Yeah,
it's a
yes.
comedy. I don't think it advertises it as such, but this is
No,
absolutely a comedy.
it's quite a bit of fun. With quite a bit of violence here and there, and particularly at the climax.
Well, yeah, I mean that's where the violence comes in. Before that, it's usually pretty mild and just a little bit of
There
eating
is
of dead people.
there is evidence of violence having occurred more than there is actual violence on the screen.
Yes. However, we're going to need to take ourselves a quick break, and
Indeed. And
we
then
will
Ted can
be
tell us what he's mad about.
exactly. I'll come back with my other final point that I don't approve of,
All right.
which is very, very glaring and irritating.
All right. I can't wait to be mad about it too.
Good.
All right. I'll see you in a minute.
Yes.
Da 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 da.
Welcome back to your mom's house, where we talk about your mom. Matt, tell me about your mom.
Oh, gross. That's always a fun topic.
All right, that's over. Carrying on.
All right. Yeah, that's I thought this was a comedy, not a horror movie.
It's dark comedy.
It's very, very dark. One of those things that's funny on TV, but you wouldn't want it to be part of your real life.
Back like that time that I had a job where the warehouse that I went over to, where I was storing my beer, my boss was renting out an office to a guy who would constantly be, mind you, this man was a businessman, but a retired businessman, but rented an office to get away from his wife so that he could watch porn and fuck hookers most every day. Um, but one of the main things that he would do is he would be listening to ESPN while watching porn, and he would try and like cover it up by like turning up the volume on the ESPN when the porn would get a little too loud, and then be like, "Oh, I can't hear my porn enough," and crank up the porn so it's like constant volumes as he's listening to his ESPORN all day. Uh yeah. I mean, that's dark comedy, and it makes my life at the time like a sitcom, which is really very funny to explain to people. Where I'm like, I have to go to work, and I might see this guy's dick again when he comes out of the bathroom after not washing his hands and taking a piss, and shake his dick around and be like, "How long are you gonna be here?" And
That
like,
sounds
come
like
on, man.
a healthy fella. I remember, here's the thing. I remember that you told this story once, but I have no idea what recording it was on, and it's probably not something that we have published yet because, as we mentioned, this is the first year that we have started publishing any of our episodes, and I'm not really doing it in any particular order. And so somewhere down the line, because my intention is to publish this episode pretty much right away. Um, so somewhere down the line, we're going to hear this story again. And if you have embellished it in any way, everyone's going to know.
Oh, I haven't. Actually, there's quite a bit more that I could tell about it.
I didn't even know that's where I was going with that until right there at the end. That's a
You know,
swerve. Woo!
Sometimes that's just the way that you got to go.
But
But now
I do remember that story. Yes.
it's a
Okay.
good story.
Here's another story. Um, how do you feel about cannibalism in general?
Oh,
This,
in general,
yeah,
I'd
like is that
absolutely eat a person if I was stuck in a spot where somebody's like, "Hey, eat this guy." Like, oh, well, I mean, obviously, if I'm stuck in a spot where somebody's like, "Here, I've murdered somebody and you need to eat him," I would eat that person because I'm
this
not getting out of there without committing cannibalism.
wait, okay. I wasn't quite clear on what the situation was, and at first I was like, wait, are you just like you're like, hey, do you know how to get to
Clam dip
do you
or
do you do you,
avocado?
do you know how to get to Newfield? And the guy's like, here, eat this guy and I'll tell you. You'd be like, all right, no problem. Or were you like saying that you would happily, like if a friend of yours committed murder and came to you for help disposing of the body, you'd be like, I'll eat him, which is really helpful, I guess.
I mean, I am a helpful friend, but not that helpful friend.
I feel like it's interesting when you get a movie like this, which is generally successful in maintaining a fairly light tone.
Oh yeah.
Um, because cannibalism is one of those things that like it actually like really creeps me out on a very fundamental level.
On a
And
core level, I can't do it. But I
it's
also know that in a situation where I'm like, if I don't do this, I'm going to die.
I feel like yeah,
I'm
if
gonna
it came to
change
that,
my stance on that
yeah,
real
I'm not,
fast.
yeah, I definitely have the privilege. I'm speaking from a point of privilege of not needing to eat anyone.
Yeah.
That has not actually come up in a really meaningful way in my life.
Yeah. And I
But
know myself well enough to say that in the right situation, I know I'd make the wrong choice.
yeah, I mean, I feel like most of us would if we had to. We'd probably feel different degrees of horrible about it later. And that's what
Yeah.
really makes all of us different. Is that the degree to which we would feel bad about having had to eat someone is variable.
Yeah.
That's
And I'm not
that's
going
how
to
we're
lie
all
to
unique.
myself and pretend that I'm going to die on that hill. I'm not. If I'm stuck in that situation and I've got to do it, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but the folks in this movie who are engaging in cannibalism, other than our hero, are not doing it because they have to. They're doing it because they are super into it. Oh, just a reminder, in case you forgot, we're Depot Devoid, and we're back from our break, and we're talking about the movie Fresh from 2022, written by Lauren Kahn and directed by Mimi Cave, with principal character really only talking about the main relationship in this movie. The main characters of Noah played by Daisy Edgar Jones and Fake Steve by Sebastian Stan. And it's a really interesting little setup. But these are all like awful people who are their need to eat folks for whatever their various reasons are, is the whole reason that fake Steve is in business. And it's a little skeevy. It's one of those things where if the tone of this movie were slightly different, I'd be grossed out by it. But it's actually like pretty easy, pretty easy to watch.
It really is, and it is fucked up. And there's some really fucked up stuff that's going on. I mean, the whole thing is about a really fucked up situation. It's a terrifying idea, but they managed to play it off in a way where it generally remains not too threatening, despite somehow everything that's actually going on. But now that we're coming back to it, and I'm sticking with but here, that is my other problem. When
Is
Noah,
the butt operation?
yes, when Noah tries to escape the first time, and then he takes her to the operating room and has his like spinning around happy doctor having a good time party bit and cuts off her ass.
Indeed.
Her ass is never a problem and is never lacking after having had it
It's
removed and sold and eaten.
yes,
So
correct.
that part, that this is a glaring issue with the movie where you just have to watch it and be like, ah, They should have left that on a cutting room floor,
It's
but the dancing around happy fun doctor bit they had too much fun with and they needed to keep it in for that. But it ruins her ability to have walked and ran and did the other stuff that she did throughout the rest of the movie. And even the first time that she sits down with him to try eating people, and she's eating it and she's like, is this me? I mean, she's sitting on her own ass that just got cut off. Of course it's not her.
it's a well, here part of the problem, and this is not a defense because this was a weird choice, and I think they needed to cut something off.
They needed
And
to up the stakes. Yeah.
right, and so I get it. They tried to choose something where they could kind of shoot around it, and it would make it real for her and real for us enough. But like they didn't have to commit to like cutting a leg off or something like that, which hampers the filmmaking of was probably not a hugely budgeted movie, and we're already dealing with other lopped up people. But they are really weirdly inconsistent with the consequences of cutting her ass off.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
are
for real.
they in the scenes immediately following the operation, like they it's clear that she has had some sort of surgery and she's in pain. They make a couple of passing references to painkillers, which again, like I'm thinking, isn't that gonna make them taste weird? Like
Probably.
maybe it won't. Like I don't know this stuff. But my instinct was like he's seems to be pretty liberal with drugging the product.
Yeah.
It seems like that isn't what you do as a meat farmer.
Well, and
But
honestly,
I'm
I've
not
got no idea.
one. So
I have no idea what like the half-life is of it sitting in the meat. Is it going to
yeah, not
degenerate?
at all. Or like
Uh,
once you drain it, is it meaningless? I don't
does
know.
oxycodone taste weird? I don't know.
Yeah, but I feel like I feel like I would have, as an audience member, I would have accepted like a single line of explanation that kind of like brushed that away. I just
Yeah.
felt like it was something they didn't really. It was there on the table and nobody talked about it, and that was kind of weird. But yes, they also, it's not clear how much time is passing. It seems a little like but certainly not enough time for her to be okay.
To
Because
grow back an ass?
because her friend she's only been missing for like a week or so. It's only a short amount of time for her to be pretty comfortable unless she's still on a ton of drugs. And
And her
also like
friend's going to lose interest. She's not going to work that hard if her
and
friend's
she's
just gone.
and she's dancing with him and you can kind of like see her ass like through
Yeah, I mean it's
the
it's
thing that
there.
she's
It
wearing. Like
exists.
she obviously still has an ass. Like, did he give her some like a fake padded ass? Like what's
One
up
that
with
still
that?
has muscles that can support stuff and can do movement.
Is she wearing some dead girl's ass for that scene?
It's that's literally, I mean, I mentioned that the Cottage Grove thing was one of my two problems. That's honestly really just comedic as hell to me.
Yeah, for sure.
The ass thing, that is the literal only problem that I have with this movie because I know that they needed to do something, but they chose the wrong thing. They did it wrong.
Yeah.
And
Do you have a suggestion? I
oh
would have
yeah,
spent some time thinking about it if I were the filmmaker and tried to figure out a better route.
I
But
mean they could have worked around it without even, yeah, I know that they wanted to up the stakes and have it be like, yeah, you're getting butchered. They if they're going to continue to have this person be a fully functional mobile person, we should have amputated something and given a prosthetic just like the wife had, or amputated something and be like, oh yeah, now you're missing an arm. Or the other simpler aspect, if they're not going to do that and they want the person to get out of it apparently relatively unscathed, because she's not, even though they lied to us and told us that her ass was taken. They could have just said, hey, BT dubs, if you fuck me again like this, I'm going to cut off your ass. And then maybe that's her motivation to try and be like, hey, eat people with me? That would have been an easy workaround. Then she's
Yeah.
still got an ass, which she still had, and she's doing the same ploy that she worked with.
Or they could have just committed to the idea that he had done that.
Yeah, and then put her in a different position
and that would have
and
been
showed that she didn't have an ass.
yeah, like that would have been fine. And honestly, like I don't think it would have been that hard.
No,
And,
no.
and like it is still sort of a weird choice,
Well,
but
and
I
especially because
understand
we've
why
got her...
you don't I understand why you don't want to cut off a leg for the character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Although honestly, that would have been like I feel like if this were a real situation, then cutting off a leg is what he would have done because he's going to do it anyway, and that would hobble her, so she can't really do anything.
Yeah.
But we're also left with like he kind of wants to keep fucking her, so
regardless of that, that's not even a big deal because that can still continue on. And
but
we
maybe
also have the friend
yeah,
coming in to save the day, and the friend might be a more useful character to save her if she's missing a leg or a butt.
Yeah. It was a little iffy, but like the movie is really more about the dynamic than it is about the details. So I kind of get why like maybe they spent more time thinking about other stuff, but it was kind of weird. But I still feel like it's a minor quibble considering how much I enjoyed a lot of the other stuff in the movie. And I honestly, my only issues were I had a couple of questions about like the very end of the movie, and again, it's kind of minor stuff. I enjoy how it all plays out, and like I mean,
It's wonderful.
This is good stuff, and it's like um it's nothing like really unexpected, you know, but like they continue kind of playing each other, and then she seizes her moment, and she and the girls try to escape, and it like they there's a lot of like there's some the great dick biting, which I encourage anyone who is a fan of dick biting to watch this movie. You don't you know there's not that much dick biting out there in your big Hollywood movies. So watch Fresh 2022. And dick biting leads to escape, as it usually does, and the tables are turned, and he comes after them, and they keep beating the shit out of him, and he really gets some good comeuppance. It's good stuff,
as one should.
But there are two sort of tertiary plot points converging at the same time, which is fake Steve's wife, who is her level of accomplice is not entirely clear. She's at least complicit.
100%.
It's not clear. Like it's also heavily implied that she started out as product,
a victim.
And that's obviously that must be an interesting story. But she knows something is going on. She comes here, she sees what's happening, and she's trying to clean up the mess. And also the bartender Patrick, who is friends with our hero and with her best friend. He's been trying to figure out what happened to them. He's sort of doing his own investigating on the side, and he's made it out all the way here. And is his entire trip out there just meant to play as a joke? Where he's like turns around and nopes out of there. And the thing, and that's, I'm kind of fine with that, except I don't understand how he does that and fake Steve's wife arrives and they never encounter each other. And maybe like I'm just unclear on the layout of how this place works. But it seems like they kind of came to the same part of the house and never saw each other on what I looked like it was just one road, like out in the boonies. So I didn't understand how that worked.
Matt, have you ever been to Cottage Grove?
Uh, apparently not.
Have you ever been to the bougie part of Cottage Grove where you've got like big electric gates and shit?
I have not been to the part of Cottage Grove where two cars going in opposite directions on a single road can pass each other without noticing.
That's because it doesn't exist.
If there's that part of Cottage Grove, I definitely haven't. Is that one of those like Oregon vortex kind of things?
Well, at this point, maybe it is, but that's down in Gold Hill, so we can't really claim that as the actual location. I think that it was one of those minor fuck ups. The movie it is really
And
good. There are very
and
few flaws.
I don't want to even say it was a flaw because I only watched it the one time. Um, I may have just missed something. It just I was scratching my head for a second. But the other thing is that uh, it does it matter that we don't know what happened to like the big henchman that fake Steve's wife brought out there? Because she just sent him back to the house to put fake Steve's body in the freezer or the cold storage. And then that thread was just left hanging.
Yeah, they just ended the movie before we got to any of that.
Like are these it's I mean you kind of it sort of seems like the girls are safe, but are they? Because there's like at least one big armed dude and we don't know how far from anywhere they are, and their friend who could have given them a lift just left.
This is true, and also, I mean, if we want to be perfectly honest and allow the movie to go back on itself and reintroduce the fact that she's got no ass, it's going to be a lot harder to get away.
Yeah, she's probably not going to want to walk a really long way. And also, the longer they're out there, like the more the drugs are probably going to wear off. And
Yeah,
her recently amputated ass, which honestly, those wounds are probably experiencing some friction abrasion from the fake ass that she's wearing over it.
and I gotta say, Matt, I mean, I don't have a big ass,
You
but
just got to say that, huh?
I do go running, and if I had no ass, even my like worthless little tiny one, I think that I'd have a hard time without it.
Probably.
I think I
I
need it
guess,
for walking and running and standing. And if I had my ass cut off and I sat down to eat people at a table with somebody on a bad date, I'm
yeah.
pretty sure that I wouldn't be like, "Oh, let me eat this and say how delicious it is." I think I'd be like, "Ow, fuck, my ass hurts. Get me something to lay down on my belly."
If I'm being honest, I'm also having maybe a difficult time picturing like exactly what it means to have your ass chopped off. Like I there are different ways that that could go. Like what does that look like in the end?
How
Like is
much
there
ass?
right like is there like are we are we slitting open and then removing material and then sewing back up? Are we just like hacking it off like we would with a katana and then cauterizing a giant steak-sized hole?
Well,
Uh what
not
is
to
happening here?
not to get too dark and not to think too hard about this, but if you were going to keep somebody alive while also removing their meat, you're going to flay it open, you're going to cut out the meat that you want, and then you're going to use the skin that's remaining to sew it back up because you're going to want it to heal up as best as you possibly can
And
to try and keep your product that you're keeping alive and fresh still functional.
a
It's
thought occurs. Um we establish in their initial sort of date conversation that he is a cosmetic surgeon. Did he cut her open, remove the meat that comprises her real ass, and then just put actual gluteal implants in there because he wanted to keep seeing them.
Okay, I will entertain this for the sake of science. Sure.
And the sake of dinner.
Yeah, that's fine. However, if that was the case, show me the deleted scenes where he's like, "Hey, does that padding feel good? I
That's what
put
I mean.
those in."
I feel like maybe that exists. Maybe that's
But
there.
you still aren't going to be walking good or
No,
running
no,
good or
no,
helping
no.
support a woman who's missing a leg very well. Your butt muscles is gone.
I'm assuming that those muscles, contribute to the walking process in some kind of meaningful way.
Yeah, they do.
I've never personally tried to do it without my ass muscles. So I haven't given it that much thought, but I'm betting if they were gone, I would feel it.
One would expect.
Maybe he lied. Maybe he told her that he cut off her ass, and he actually just like gave her deadening injections so she couldn't feel it anymore.
Well, if that was the case, again, we're missing a scene out of the movie that should have been produced so that we would understand that that's the thing and it was a trick. It's a bad point in the movie.
It doesn't work as well as it should.
It's the
Um,
only bad point
but
in the movie.
for the most part, I I have few complaints. It's a it's a fun movie about the horror of dating and the trafficking of human meat.
I absolutely love this movie. I recommend it to anybody. It's beautiful. I've only seen it the one time so far. I'm looking forward to seeing it 3, 4, or 5 more times. It's great. Uh I I I haven't seen a movie going in blind that I've liked as much as this one in a long time. And I've watched a few movies lately going in completely blind, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was actually for a movie that I knew nothing about. Yeah, it turned out to be pretty satisfying. And for, like, if this means anything to anyone out there, my partner, who is generally a bit squeamish, did not have a huge problem with this movie. I mean, there's some gross bits, but you don't really see the concepts are gross, but you don't see a lot of on-screen violence. You see
You
a
don't.
lot of packaged goods. And the core idea of cannibalism being, you know, a bit repellent. That take that as you will. If you are unable to tolerate that in any way, this is probably not the movie for you. But it's yeah, if our, it's a fun movie about cannibalism, not as funny as Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death, which was the first episode that we published, but definitely not the first episode that we recorded.
It's true. And now, as we're getting to the end here, Matt, I think this is pretty obvious, but what is this movie actually about?
Um, I I thought it was about love and and the endless search for it. Oh, and about how delicious people are.
You missed out on what
Ted,
it's really about.
no, Ted, this is about how the elite deserve to eat the things that are the most delicious, and the thing that is the most delicious is people. And I think if you are going to say that that's wrong, it just proves your ignorance. and that you have never actually had the joy of eating people, because there's nothing better, nothing at all.
Okay, so you did hit the joke that I was going to make, and now I'll just tell you what it's actually about, which is also pretty fucking obvious. It's online dating. You know, people grow up learning how to date in normal life as we did when we were younger, and then online dating is now the thing that's going on. And now you're in a situation where you're having to put yourself out there and you don't know who you're going to run into, and it's basically a meat market, and that's exactly what it becomes. It's not even a freaking hidden thing. This
No,
is
no,
a meat market that we
it's
are
not.
working in.
It's not subtext at all.
No,
No,
it's very direct. This
no,
movie's
it's no
obvious.
this movie makes absolutely no attempt to hide its agenda, and it's
Yeah,
adorable.
it's
Like
beautifully done.
in that first sequence, like right at the top of the movie, she gets hit with a series of like 3 or 4 super obvious like feminist tropes. Like it's just like handing her red flags, and it was quite funny. Like it is this movie is not it, it's not trying to be sneaky or highbrow in its intentions. It is showing you like, look at these fucking shitty people, and here is exactly what they do. And it's all true. You can't really fault it for saying things that are absolutely 100% true.
Yeah.
Like, show me, like, there is no woman out there who has not gone on a date with a guy who turned out to be just monstrously self-absorbed, and who the second that she rejects him turns into a completely trash mouth piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like it these are all just things that happen. And this is the horrible series of events that happens to her after she meets fake Steve are sort of presented as just like, this is another horrible thing that happens. Like, sooner or later, we all find our fake Steve who changes to a fucking bed in a room in Cottage Grove.
And of course it happened in Cottage Grove.
And it teaches you lessons, this movie. Like, never go with a stranger to a second location.
Yeah. Yeah. Stay safe out there, kids.
Assume that everyone is a cannibal. I mean, if you just approach all encounters with that assumption, and then as they gradually over time prove to you that they're not a cannibal, then you can start to trust them.
But they have to prove to you first that they're not a cannibal, because they could still be. I mean, man,
you got to prove it.
Most cannibals in this society aren't telling you that. Also, in this economy where meat is really expensive, I mean,
you know what? Over the next 4 years, it's going to become a lot more popular. And all I'm going to say is, I hope it's the rich. I mean, the ones that are being eaten. Not, I hope it's the rich who decide to actually actively prey upon the poor.
I mean, obviously they are. They are already. I mean,
yes,
be aware.
I just want to, like, I suddenly realize, in today's political climate, I need to clarify that I mean, I hope we eat the rich and not the other way fucking round. That's what I mean.
Understood.
Can we for once please eat the rich? I'm so hungry. Hungry for justice, Ted.
Hey, justice is gonna come around one way or another. I fucking hope.
Welcome to 2025, listeners.
It's a beautiful year to be alive.
And hopefully we can all make it to the end.
Out there, all 4 of you, stay alive.
Each of you tell one friend about the podcast and eat one rich person before the next episode drops, and we will be well on our way to a better and more just America.
And everybody also remember that Matt's opinions and suggestions of consuming rich people are not necessarily the advocations and suggestions of Depot Devoid, the podcast.
I love you, Ted.
I love you too, Matt. This has been fresh and it's been fucking amazing.
Try to eat one rich person before we record our next episode.
All right. We'll see you again soon.
Until next time.
Bye.
Depot Devoid is hosted by Matt Fagan and Ted Fagan. Depot Devoid is not hosted by Ian Fagan because he died and we miss him. Find us at Depot Devoid Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all your favorite podcast platforms, or reach us at depotdevoidpodcast@gmail.com.